sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. And while you're at it, leave a comment and let us know what historical prison topics you'd like to hear about next. Okay, time to take a disturbing trip back to the USSR. And we don't mean we're taking a drive in a Moss Beach. The Gulag was notorious for imprisoning people based on false or even non-existent charges, including treason, spying, and anti-revolutionary activity. Sympathy toward anyone perceived to be enemy of the state could also be punished with a trip to the camps. That means if Rocky had lost Ivan Drago, not only would he have been shipped off to the Gulag, but so would Paulie. And probably the robot as well. The Soviet Union relied on these flimsy pretexts to incarcerate anyone they pleased. But the real reason was the economic value of prisoners as slave labor. Stalin's aggressive 5-year plan, an effort to quickly bring industrialization to the Soviet Union, required a huge amount of labor for its massive construction projects. The only problem? A lack of knowledgeable and skilled specialist business model that relies on unpaid labor. Sounds like a tech startup CEO to me. Millions of people were arrested, deported to the Gulag, and forced to become the builders of Stalin's dream. Camp survivors shared chilling stories of being picked up by secret police and shipped off to the Gulag without a trial. Unsuspecting citizens could be snatched up while at work, in the middle of having a meal at a restaurant, walking down the street, or even asleep in their beds. And had another steady source of workers that was even more disturbing. Basically, your options were either win or be slain on the battalions and sent to the front lines of the war. Some would cross minefields by clearing them for other soldiers to cross. Others were effectively used as human shields to protect the good soldiers. Anyone who tried to make a run for it would be gunned down by special blocking units, with strict orders also home to actual criminals, including bandits, thieves, and murderers. These real criminals were the elites of the camp, often sporting specific tattoos related to Russian orthodoxy and culture, and terrorizing other inmates. The gangs controlled virtually every aspect of social life, including who slept where and how food was rationed. And challenging their authority could mean beatings, stabbings, additional hard labor, or worse. No walk in the park for anyone. But women had things especially rough. Many of the female inmates were initially arrested as daughters of enemies of state, to have any direct offense, real or invented. When they were arrested, mothers were separated from their children, and in the camps they were expected to perform the same hard. Some women were forced to take on Gulag husbands, exchanging sexual favors for protection and better treatment. And there weren't exactly safe birth control methods either. When a woman gave birth in the Gulag, the baby stayed with the mother until the age of 2. The combination of poor nutrition, lousy sanitary conditions, tragically cut short many of these infant lives. And some of those who survived still survive today. And one, he found their love got her through her incarceration. Fajes writes, Svieta had much less to say, but she sat with Lev and held his hand. And when I asked her what had made her fall in love with him, she replied, I knew he was my future. When he was not there, I would look for him, and he would always appear by my side. That is love. Exposure to the elements and harsh conditions weren't the only terrible things the Gulag had in store for its prisoners.
Remember, the 5th of November.
Out of the 18 million unfortunate souls incarcerated in the Gulag, many came from diverse professional backgrounds. Doctors, writers, educators, and other people from all walks of life were constantly arrested and shipped off to do hard physical labor, for which they had neither the skill nor the control in anyone's well-being. And like most dictators, he'd had the foresight to make it illegal for him to be held accountable for any of his actions. Some inmates cut down trees, while others mined for minerals or did other menial tasks, depending on the camp's location. And since this was years before OSHA was invented, and also Stalinist Russia, safety precautions and personal protective gear weren't given a second thought. Prisoners often worked with no more protection than the clothing they had on their backs, and used primitive hand tools instead of quality equipment, all while working grueling hours in extreme conditions. As a result, with a constant supply of new laborers in the form of criminals, orphans, and dissidents being fed into the camps, Stalin and his inner circle hardly noticed. They had bigger fish to fry. One of those bigger canals would run north and south, requiring extensive labor in a short period of time. An impossible amount of work with an equally impossible time frame. Sounds like a job for the unfortunate prisoners of the Gulag. In 1931, thousands of inmates were transported to the construction zones. There, prisoners dug a 30-mile addition to the White Sea-Baltic Canal. The project took almost 2 years and was mostly dug by hand. An estimated 12,000 prisoners lost their lives building the canal, although the actual toll is probably higher. Between 1933 and 1937, the same project unfolded in much the same way along the Moscow-Volga Canal. This time, however, it took addition were buried in the soil before the canal was flooded over. Today, tourists traveling down the Moscow-Volga Canal are actually... As you may imagine, escaping the Gulag was a difficult feat. Even if you managed to get past the guards and the dangerous Gulag gangs, you still had to contend with the harsh Russian wilderness and find your way to a country that wouldn't immediately turn you right back over to Stalin. The only two options were Finland and China. For those who actually succeeded in making a great escape, those countries became a safe haven. The escape involved a Polish army official named Sławomir Rawicz, who crossed the Himalayas to India on foot, starring Jim Sturgis, a fact which is either a tribute or an indictment of Rawicz, depending on how you feel about Across the Universe. Chernihiv befriended a local peasant who supplied valuable information about the habits of the camp's guards. Chernihiv used this information to find an escape opportunity. Because of his good behavior, guards allowed his wife and son to visit him in the prison. He and his wife established a code to discuss their escape plan, and in the summer of 1933, the family put their plan into motion. During a scheduled visit, Chernihiv and his family managed to give the Gulag guards the slip. Per Chernihiv's account, the family crossed rivers, forests, and mountains on their journey. Wilderness with few provisions, they managed to elude detection and make it to a hidden boat, which they used to sail. Story that beats the time we got banned from the theme